I've been working on this video for a while. The first footage I have for it is from the end of December of last year. Life threw a couple curveballs, so unfortunately I was delayed for several months in filming this. At first, I tried a basic RGB LED strip, the ones that are usually made to plug into the backs of TVs for mood lighting and such. It plugs in with a USB-A port, but unlike a true USB, which has 4 wires in it, power in red, ground in black, data plus in green, and data minus in white, and some will include a 5th wire for shielding, this is just a power and ground wire, red and black. And like most RGB lights, it's powered with 5 volts. However, the 8BitDo arcade stick doesn't provide 5 volts to its button lights. I'm not sure exactly what it provides because there is no spec for the board, but my guess is that it's somewhere around 3 volts. The default lights are diode style lights, which are typically driven by between 2.6 and 3.2 volts. On these basic RGB strips, like the Energizer ones I was trying first, they either get the 5 volts they need or they don't do anything. The next day of experimenting, I gave up on that set of lights and moved on to these Inland individually assignable RGB lights. Inland makes good stuff, and what I learned is that on better made strips like this, they feature what's known as graceful degradation. If it can't get full power, it will fall back to doing whatever it can with the power it's being provided. In most cases, this means all the LEDs will shine red for a couple reasons. One, as a sign that something is off, but also just because red happens to be the easiest color for them to display. This is what you saw me getting working when I posted that short. I didn't want to give up at that point and kept looking for ways to make it better. At first, I'd just connect a single signal and ground wire. So my next thought was maybe I need to daisy chain the signal wire to both the inputs and then it will get full power, but nothing changed. So from then on, it was obvious these lights were only going to be showing up red. So that's the caveat. You can absolutely get LED lights on the buttons of the 8BitDo, so long as those buttons are red. It's kind of like the Model T in paint options. I decided if this was going to be all red, I was going to go all in on that look. I got some black spray paint for the body and used painter's tape to cover the plexi and the holes where the menu buttons and levers would be. All right, I'll get that painted really quick. Okay, now we're ready to get started. First, I want to show how the mode select switch on the front of the stick affects the lights. You can see some pretty major changes inside of here. I've cut a bunch of plastic away, none of it's structural if you're interested in doing something similar for what it's worth. I did this partially to make it easier to show off, but mostly because I wanted to use screw-in buttons with this case and they just don't fit otherwise. When you toggle between switch and PC mode, alternate sets of diodes are lit up. You'll see wires labeled either 1, 2, or just blank. 1 is a yellow wire for switch, 2 is a red wire for PC, and the blank one is a black ground wire. I'm going to get my buttons in. You'll want either transparent or possibly clear style buttons for this. I'm not sure these names are 100% standardized across brands, but typically transparent buttons are for this, shining lights around them. While clear is more meant for putting art under the caps, but if you're looking at a line of buttons where the only options are typical opaque buttons and clear, go with clear. I'm going to show the right way to do this in this video. Putting pins on the end of the LED wires, I'm going to show how to daisy chain the LED signal wire, but I realize not everyone is going to want to go to that level of effort. So I want to start out by showing the simplest way to get this working. At the most basic level, the only things you need to do this project are electrical tape, a small screwdriver, and something to cut and strip wires. A wire stripper like this typically runs about $20. It will make your work a lot easier, but it's not strictly necessary. If you're really trying to cut costs, you can just use a pair of scissors. I have a pair of cheapos from IKEA here to drive that point home. You can cut the wires exactly how you'd expect to cut them. We'll use this spare 2-wire JST plug as an example. Then, to strip, spin the wire around in the blades of the scissors. Obviously, be careful with your fingers while you're doing this. It will take some time, but eventually you'll see the insulation stripping. From there, hold the blades in place and pull on the insulation. You can see it's not the cleanest cut and it takes a while. I'll show you how fast the wire strippers work in comparison, but it gets the job done. So now, showing what you need to do, I have the 2 PCB boards that control the diode lights out. 8 screws hold these in, 5 on the top, 3 on the bottom. They come off with a Phillips 00 size screwdriver. You should be able to find something to fit these in an electronics toolkit. The size isn't too important though, it's not like they're in very tight. You'll need to get these out to make room to wrap the LED strip around the buttons. You'll only need 2 of these wires out of the 6 total, 1 of the ground wires in black and then either the red or the yellow. These are in a ribbon sort of stuck together, so you will need to pull them apart to work with them. Again, the yellow number 1 wire is switch, the red number 2 wire is PC. I only play on PC, so I'm going to cut the black and red wires here. If you play on both, you can cut all 3 and bind your LED power wire to both the yellow and red wires from the board. Jumping ahead to the finished product, I want to show this working. You can see I've converted the LED wires to fit in the JST plug, and I've forked the signal wire. When I toggle between these modes, PC and then switch, both work. Turning it into a plug doesn't work any magic. If you just bind the 2 signal wires to your LED power wire, you will get the same effect. Looking at the 6-pin plug where power is provided from, you can see I have my 2 wires cut and now I need to strip them. Cut these a little on the longer side, it's easier to work with the strands of wire that way. I have another set of 2 wires standing in for the LEDs already stripped. Now all you need to do is cross them like this. Try and cross them closer to the base. Crossing them at the middle or the edge will be less secure and harder to insulate. There's no specific trick to this, just twist the strands around one another and keep them tight with no fraying. Check that they're bound up by giving a little tug on both ends. You shouldn't see much or any movement. Just keep rolling and compressing until you get to this point. When you're done, your result should look like this. Then cut yourself a little electrical tape and roll it over the exposed wire. After that, you have spliced your LED's power and ground onto the power and ground of the 8BitDo arcade sticks board. All you have left to do is wrap your LEDs around the buttons. I'll call this out here, the Inland RGB strip has a white ground wire. This is unusual. They're nearly always black, so if you get a strip like the one I recommend, just know you're probably hooking a white wire from the LEDs to a black wire from the stick's board. It probably won't be black to black like you're seeing right now. Another thing to consider is plugging up the spots that used to have the diodes in them. They're transparent, so it's possible you'll get some light bleeding through them. If you are getting that, you can take electrical tape, fold it up, and shove it down into where the diodes were. For me, this is necessary because of the plastic I cut away, but again, this is helpful for you to get a better look at what's going on in here. You can see me testing with a pen light. This is the result you're after if you do this. Now, if you want a more professional finish to this, you can do that with a JST-PH kit. That's the type of plug on the board for the lights. This kit was around $10. It has a bunch of different plug sizes and strands of pin ends to plug into them. To work with them, you'll want an open barrel ratchet crimping tool like this one. Unlike the hand rolling method, only expose a small bit of the wire strand for this. There's limited room in these pin ends. Also, if you want to have power provided for both PC and switch mode, because of the small size of these pins, you can't daisy chain the wire the way that would typically be done for quick disconnects. It just will not fit. Instead, you need to take 2 other strands of wire and fork them with the LED power wire. Then, to have it look a bit better than that quick and dirty tape method, I use a heat shrink tube to insulate the wire. Then just crimp the pins onto the ends of your wires and push them into the plug. Now I put the switch back in, click it over, and the strip lights up. The only thing left to do now is to snake the strip through all the buttons. I just make sure that there's an LED near every edge. And this is the finished product. The camera picks up the red lights a little bit brighter than they appear in real life, and you can see how the red lights look if you're going to use different color buttons. The black buttons do have a more subdued light, but I still think they come out looking really cool, and I am extremely happy with how this came out. Thank you everyone for watching and for waiting so long on this video. It seems like there's just a complete absence of knowledge about how to add LEDs to this arcade stick. I couldn't even find an official spec for how much power the board actually puts out. So I hope this video can start the work of filling in that blank. I found no one else attempting this project, so if this video ends up inspiring you, please let me know how your project goes. I'm a sample size of 1, so I'd be very interested to learn from all of your experiences as well. With that, I won't keep you. Thank you again for watching. Like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts. I will see you again in the next one, which will not be in 3 months. Promise.